Yeah, no problem. So yeah, Ian Evans, I'm CEO for Karios, and really, what the company is we formed about 4 months ago, and the purpose of the company really was a couple things. One is to essentially produce a hyperconverged infrastructure that uses Beehive at its core that is very much focused on the data center. So we're kind of pushing into the hypervisor space, but we're also pushing into the data center information management space. So much broader control over the larger data center. So we've been at that, yes, like I said, for about 4, 5 months now, and very aggressively developing with the intent that, we're going to be pushing out a POC in pretty short order here, probably in the next week. So we're looking forward to doing that. Chuck, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Chuck Tuffley. I work with Ian at Karios, and in my copious free time, I'm a FreeBSD committer. I've worked on Beehive and NVMe things in the past.
Perfect. Yeah, and like I was saying, Michael, so we're kind of right now we're in that position where, like I mentioned, we have a lot of the big companies kind of crawling all over our stuff right now. They're trying to figure out what we're doing, and we're trying to be a little bit careful in terms of what we actually release. Um, Moving forward to the POC, and then kind of just like get it all out there at once within the community. And then we're also working on, as we speak, kind of our open source strategy, what that looks like, what we're going to effectively release. There's going to be parts of the product that are available in the open source community. We're going to have an open source community edition of the product. And then, of course, there'll be tiered, like Proxmox does almost, where, there's a tiered licensing that you can effectively purchase for the product, and then that would be on like a per socket basis. But that's kind of where we're at right now. So I was going to present just at a very high level. I can obviously show some screenshots of other stuff, but I definitely want to at least discuss the platform so everybody knows kind of what we're building, some of the features that we're coming out with coming up to that POC, if that works for everybody.
Hey, Ian. Hey, Ian.
Okay.
What is a POC?
Proof of concept. Sorry. So the idea is we're basically going to get it to some people to test, and really what we want to be able to do is get the feedback loop going. Specific gaps, any bugs, anything that needs to be addressed before it actually starts to go to market, and we start to get more community involvement in the product. That's the purpose of the POC. So right now we have about 12 or 13 lined up. Fairly seasoned users in the data center space, people that are notoriously frustrated with VMware, and they're very much interested in alternatives to evaluate the product. So that's what we're doing with the POC. Cool. We still have everybody? All right, give me just a second here. All right, can everybody see this? Okay, so a couple things right off the bat. We're both a software and a hardware company, essentially. What we're doing is first is we have what you guys will see pretty quick here is a downloadable version of the product. You can go in and download it, use it, and evaluate it freely. There will be an open source version that's going to be available, like I said. And then we also have a hardware element to it that we are effectively building as well. That's kind of like in more of a ruggedized type solution. But really, it's just a level set on the product. Like I said, it's a hypervisor, a platform itself. So it's very similar to what was just presented. We do a lot of the same stuff, as Proxmox or, ESXi. We're trying to release a competitive product there. But we're also very much focused on reducing some of the barriers to entry within the data center. And that's been a huge focus for us is addressing things like liquid cooling, energy efficiency, carbon usage is a big one that we're focused on. And then we're also focused on adding some additional security tools into the actual hypervisor itself, beyond just, patching and providing security patches to customers, but actually providing a framework that allows people to scan and remediate based on the CVE databases and other security databases that are out there. The objective is you pull those in, you can go ahead and scan the hypervisor itself, then also scan the virtual machines, and then be able to assess the security posture based on what we consider OpenSCAP or oval databases that are available through NIST and DISA, and there's a bunch of other ones, but really kind of assess the overall security posture of the environment. And then the other piece that is pretty interesting about our product is we're actually working on zero touch provisioning. So one of the things that I found that was, particularly problematic when you start working through Proxmox environments or VMware environments is there's still not a good mechanism in those to be able to do agnostic server provisioning, right? So what we want to basically address there and what we have addressed in the product, and everybody will see this pretty soon, is that our product allows you to basically go out, discover assets in the rack based on current available BMC methods, which are IPMI. There's Redfish. There's a few others, and then that allows you to securely connect into that BMC, discover that, and then actually provision our Karios hypervisor on it without having to do a bunch of manual work or log into an iDRAC or an ILO and deal with all that stuff. It just makes it much easier. So what we've done there is we basically have built two constructs there. One is you can connect to it, and you can do it through what we consider pixie-less, where it actually mounts the virtual media on the server, and then allows you to provision the Karios hypervisor. And then the other one is it actually does it through standard Pixie boot. So what we've done is we've integrated a built-in DHCP server into our product that allows you to effectively Pixie boot and then go ahead and instantiate a hypervisor footprint on hardware of your choice. And that's the big thing that we've been focused on. Completely agnostic. We don't want any vendor lock-in. Bring your own hardware. Customers can use basically whatever they want. So that's a big push for us. The other piece that I was going to say that's pretty important is also lifecycle management for those servers. So when you do provision a server and you do put a hypervisor on it, there will be people that want to do things like firmware updates, and they want to set a specific BIOS profile that enables things like SRIOV, and other options in there. If you're doing PCI pass-through, you might want to enable things like ARI and resizable bar and all these things. So those templates can actually be injected in through those methods that I mentioned, and then that becomes part of a workflow where essentially you have one step completes the next. There's a callback, goes to the next step until you actually get the server completely provisioned and configured to your exact need for that specific environment. So we're trying to address that whole server lifecycle as we go through that. So that's actually in great shape. We have that done. So you can deploy the hypervisors very simply. You can also maintain the life cycle of the servers. Any questions so far on that? Okay, perfect. So what we have effectively done is, like I mentioned, is we built a very similar type of product. If you look at it, kind of like from Proxmox standpoint, you have your typical data center. You've got your nodes that are underneath that. We support all of the external storage capabilities like they have. So you'll see S3 and iSCSI and NFS and PNFS and MooseFS and Seaweed FS, and all these things are effectively in there. So when it comes out, you'll be able to mount to all those and use those. We upstreamed the fixes for Seaweed FS recently. So now the Seaweed filer does actually work within BSD, so you can use that as a distributed file system. There's still a few CPU contention issues we're dealing with there, but for the most part, it works pretty good. There's other parts of the product that we are very much similar to what you consider a Proxmox as well, where we're going to have a fully functional SDN. And part of that is, you'll be able to do all your internal routing. So we're going to support, BGP, OSPF, all of those. So you can effectively build what's akin to an Amazon, VPC. You'll see security groups, ACLs, everything that you would effectively need to connect the hypervisors to more of a distributed switch type of framework. And with that, we actually have the ability to, and we will very shortly, to do specific things with the SDN that'll allow, kind of like more of a spine leaf or mesh type of architecture. So BGP is very important in that. And then we've also built in a complete PF automated framework. So you can go in and there's a nice GUI in there. You can add, remove, change options within the PF configuration and all of that. So that's there. We support VXLAN, Genevieve, a bunch of other stuff. So it's becoming a very complete solution. By the time we release it, you'll see the fully functional SDN on top of that allows you to do layer 3 functionality with the Beehive hypervisor. We have built out functionality around Veil. So you can go in, you can use a Veil virtual switch. We have the standard virtual switch concepts. All of that works. So all the networking constructs are there. We're doing some work with vector packet processing and DPDK as it pertains to lower packet latencies and throughput. So we've got some interesting stuff going there that's not probably going to be in the immediate release, but it'll be in the future. And then we also have been very much focused on ZFS, right? So ZFS is a first-class citizen within the hypervisor, and the focus really is, anything that you can do at the advanced configuration and CLI level, you can do in the UI. We also have it available through the API. But the intention is, if you want to go in and do an L2 arc, you want to set up a separate, slog, or you want to go in and build something like that, it has the functionality for that. Compression, dedupe, encryption, all of that's built in and functional within the product now, and you'll see that on release. And then we also are working on a clustered ZFS solution that allows you to horizontally scale ZFS. That'll be part of the product release as well. Not this immediate one, but pretty close into the future. And then lastly, the piece that's probably most important is we've extended a lot of the functionality out into the product that really kind of has further reach into the data center. So we created our own data center information management framework that allows you to essentially go in and add rack level devices, PDUs, power panels, power paths. We have an IPAM that's effectively built into it where you can do that. IPv6 is going to be added into the product very soon. And we also are going to support, telemetry from critical data center infrastructure. So if you have like let's say a crack and you want to make sure that you're monitoring the functionality in that and temperatures and fan speeds and all that, you'll be able to pull that in through a standard Redfish API that then allows you to monitor those aspects in conjunction with the hypervisor. So really what we're trying to build is not just a hypervisor environment, but we're trying to build something that's much broader reach into the data center that actually gives you some useful telemetry, but also allows you to control different aspects of that environment. So as an example, if you want to control a Tor switch, we're going to have functionality to be able to do that through your standard netconf or your Yang models, where you can go in and set VLANs on switches and things like that. So it's a fairly comprehensive solution. We've been at it for pretty solid, for, like I said, 4 or 5 months. We've got about 22 developers right now that are working on the product. Chuck's on the team, which is great. He's definitely seasoned in the FreeBSD development space. He's been doing some really good work with us. We just onboarded another individual that's helping us with some of the clustering pieces, which we're starting to aggressively work on, and we'll have a clustering model that's effectively built out that's going to be native and functional within our product, in addition to things like live migration is planned. So the intent really is with this is we want to finally get to the point where FreeBSD is a first-class citizen when it comes to competitive hypervisor, and then also a competitive hyperconverged type platform. I don't like that term because it's too overused, but when you want to consolidate storage and network and everything into one product, that's really going to be the intention, with it, and use that at the core, right? So that's kind of a quick summary. I guess I'll stop there if anybody has any questions. Like I said, I'd love to be able to show more of a demo. We're just not ready at this point. I would like to be able to show it in its complete form. So perhaps, Michael, what we can do is set up in coming weeks, we can set up a separate session, and I'm happy to go through some of that and show everybody kind of what we have once we get that to a state where I can reliably show a few things and we're closer to the actual POC release date. Yes. Mhm. So right now, as it stands, we're using so for BGP, we're using Bird is what we're effectively using, which is part of everybody's probably familiar with the FreeBSD RP project, which is I think Netflix runs that. So a lot of similar approaches. He's got a fairly comprehensive solution that he's built around BGP that uses Bird. And then Quagga and basically Quagga for the actual CLI. It's or CLI and then the YOS equivalent type of functionality and control with an API that we built. Ah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so great question. Yeah, absolutely. So the open source stuff we're going to announce in probably the next week. We're working on that piece, but the intention is the core hypervisor itself and all the functionality around that is going to be open sourced and available into the community. It's some of the value add pieces around it, that will probably we obviously have to be able to monetize on it, right? So there'll be some of those pieces that we have as supplemental. And then kind of what we do similar to Proxmox is, we use a paid support tier model, where people buy that and then they would be able to leverage that, but use the product, in an open source fashion. So everything we've written in Go, it's relatively simple in that respect is that we built everything kind of from scratch. There's really not a whole lot that we started off with. We did use a little bit of the VM Beehive framework, and we're working through some of that, but we've changed that pretty drastically. So some of it will be familiar, but the intent is yes, we will have an open source version available that people can consume, use, and then modify at will with the value add kind of like ecosystem around that a product that we've effectively attached to it is the idea. On the AI side of it, so this is where I tried to be a little bit careful with this because I don't want to be one of those companies that overuses AI and just saturates everything with it. But we do have some compelling technology that we built into it that's very much focused on like kind of like almost like a RAG model, if you will, that allows people to go in and make some queries and kind of deterministic type of infrastructure provisioning, if you will, where you can go in, give it specific criteria, and then that will go in and actually, identify things, help you effectively allocate the assets, identify the assets, do certain configuration things that are fairly mundane and fairly painful to try to facilitate that without actually breaking your infrastructure and destroying your infrastructure. So we boxed it in and we have very specific use cases for it, but when we use AI in context, that's kind of where it comes in, is that this kind of like intelligent, data center awareness and some provisioning aspects to it that we built into that.
Did you say RAG model?
Yeah, so basically
Can
like
you
an
elaborate
agent.
on that? What that
Yeah, well, it's kind of like an agent, if you will, or something similar that allows you to basically ask the platform to go in and identify certain pieces of infrastructure, if you will, and then do certain things with it, and kind of almost like build you more of like an automated type of workflow, if you will, without having to go through that and go through this long process, trying to identify infrastructure, all these manual things. We're kind of bringing that into more of a fully automated approach where the system is kind of aware and it knows what's out there and it can present that stuff back to you so you can get the workloads as quickly as possible. One thing I was going to mention is we do we are supporting, and we have built in a complete Kubernetes deployment model within the product. So you can actually go in and you can deploy it. You can deploy multiple different Kubernetes models. We have implemented cloud in it into the product, so we support that fully. We have a distributed storage, block storage model that we're going to start working into it that we've started building. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the works. So with a lot of it being completed, but for the first time, we're kind of like, I'm kind of seeing like, wow, this can actually be, for a Beehive based hypervisor framework that can be used for enterprise consumption with a support team and global reach, and the support to be on the funding and everything to be able to back that. There's substantial amount of funding behind this project.
All righty, we have another question coming in hot. Nope. Okay, moved on. And thank you, Chuck, for explaining that RAG is retrieval augmented generation. That's a new one to me. Maybe everyone here is familiar with that. Oh, Dave is familiar. He's a cool kid. Other questions? Yes, Tom.
But the strong interest in VB, and I was just wondering what has their experience of being with the integrated VP with FreeBSD, and obviously like being a Linux project or Dollar-Tree for this, of course. So how has that work progressed, and is I suppose FreeBSD a first class citizen in the BPP world? That kind of so do you lose anything using FreeBSD with you?
So Tom has moved a packet or two over the years, and he would love to know about everything about your experiences with VPP. Is FreeBSD a first-class client? Are you missing features? Is it painful? Is it awesome?
It's a great question, and the answer to that is absolutely no changes with that. We actually use, whatever the current branch is, and we test with all of those, and we build upon that so that the fundamental base operating system itself is always going to be, FreeBSD and what it is at its core, with the intent that we use everything that's available through the release cycles that are basically planned and pushed into the community. So yeah, 100% on FreeBSD.
Thank you. Hi, Joe.
Tom says hi to Chuck, and I don't know to what degree I can wiggle this sucker around, but
Yes.
gang's all here.
See everybody.
Thanks very much. Appreciate the answer.
Other questions? So basically, I'm hearing, watch this space. You are diligently trying to boil the ocean in awesome ways. All righty, you're biting off a bunch, and
We are. I mean,
pretty cool, babe. We've got a big team.
It's interesting because we have, and it's a different shift from what I'm used to. Usually, you kind of attach to a few FreeBSD developers here and there, right? But what's really interesting about this particular company and project is that we literally have over a little over 20 FreeBSD centric developers. I mean, that is their focus. That's what they do all day. That's their full-time job. So we're very much excited to like continuously push this forward and move it in a way that is going to speed enterprise adoption of the Beehive hypervisor specifically. I love it. I've used it. I think there's a lot of potential in it. As a company, we want to try to do that and enable the community and push something out that I think is going to hopefully beat the heck out of some of the other stuff out there. When we get to it, when we get to a good point here.
Repeat them. Yes, what's your question?
Okay.
You can read lips.
I'm not sure if that's a proper question, but where are you getting investments from?
If you can reveal, where are you getting investments from?
Yeah, no. So I could provide a little bit of detail on that. It's all private investment. We're not working with any VCs at all. So that's obviously great because we kind of control our own destiny in that sense. But yeah, it's all private investment. I can say that much, and we are fairly well funded into the foreseeable future. We'll probably be just fine without VC, with any type of VC injection.
Is it Chuck?
Oh yeah, you know it.
Are you the investor? You wear it well.
It is not This is very much not
Me?
Yeah, and
Silent partner. It's been very silent.
yeah, and like I said, Michael, I don't like, these type of presentations where I can't show a product that's driving me nuts. But like, I want, I want to show it, and we will. I apologize, I can't do that, but trust me, in the next, week or two, we'll get it out there. People will start to see what it is and what we're doing, and how far it's come along. It's an amazing product. Like, I'm just absolutely shocked at what we've been able to do in about a 4 or 5 month time frame.
Yes, no kidding.
So pretty exciting.
So we'll have to have like BeehiveCon Vegas with with the hall upon hall and booths and geez. Okay, I guess I'm game. Other questions? Oh, yes, gotcha.
I wonder if you work with Fudo or PM or
The question is, are you working with Fudo for PAM? Is that the Powell Dawadex project? Yes, it's the Fudo security tool.
No, we haven't. I'm familiar with it, but we have not. And that actually, come the next summit that's at NetApp, that would probably, I know he's always there, so it would be a great opportunity to have a discussion around that. But that would be fantastic.
And is that November? Do you have the dates handy? Because that is a great little event in the Bay Area. It's been
It's really, really good.
surprisingly good. Good work. I mean,
And probably, I don't know what the plan is, Micah, but we're, hopefully we can present, we can actually show the full solution there. That's kind of, what we're stunning for, but I need to work with the foundation on that. So
I'm sure they'll let you in the door. Yeah. So, wow, exciting stuff. Join the calls, as I've been telling each presenter. Don't be a stranger.
yeah, we've been a bit in obviously stealth mode because you know how it is. It's just competitive wise. We want to make sure we have that advantage, and we also get FreeBSD out there as like an instant like value add. Without we've been very careful in that. We just want to make sure it comes out and we hit the market like in that wow factor. Like, oh my gosh, FreeBSD can Beehive can do these things. Absolutely, 100%.
Well, anything else? Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.